Hi everyone, we're going to solve this system of equations only using a matrix. We're not going to convert back to the very end when we have a row of 1, 1, and 1. So let's see how we're going to do this. So I'm going to first change this into a matrix, and we see we have x minus 2y plus z, that's 1x, 2 negative 2y's, 1z, and this is equal to negative 4. Our next line is going to be 0 x's, right? We only have a y, so 1y and 2 z's, followed by a 6. And the last one we have 1x, 1y, 3 z's, and a 6. Now, the cool thing is that we're kind of already here. If you see, we have a 0, so we're going to make that guy 0 too. But to do that, we can't mix our rows 2 and 3, but we can for sure mix rows 1 and 3. To do that, 1 plus 1 doesn't cancel out, so we're going to change the top by negative 1. So change the top by negative 1. I'm going to multiply the top by negative 1. Let's go and look at that. It'll be 1 times negative 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Now we can combine these two rows together, right? These two rows down. And we'll get our third row. Let's go ahead and clean that up. And let's write a new matrix. 1, negative 2, 1, negative 4. 0, 1, 2, 6. The second row has not changed at all. And our third row is going to be 0, negative 1, and 1 cancels out to be 0. 2 and 1 is 3. Negative 1 and 3 is 2. And 4 and 6 is 10. All right. Our goal is to get 1s all the way across that row. But to get there, we have to first get our zeros across these 3 zeros here, a triangle of zeros. So let's go and mix our rows 2 and 3. To combine those, I need to make that 3 into a 0, so we'll mix those rows 2 and 3. Let's multiply row 2 to row 3 by multiplying it by negative 3. You guys okay with that? Multiplying by negative 3. Okay, negative 3. So negative 3 times 1 gives us, change our color, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. We can combine those. Let's get to our next row. 1, negative 2, 1, negative 4. 0, 1, 2, 6. And then we have 0, 0, negative 3, and 3 gives us our next row, next value of zeros. Negative 6 and 2 gives us negative 4. And 18 and negative 18 and positive 10 is negative 8. Great. Now our goal is to get 1, 1, 1 across the line. So let's go ahead and start simplifying this. Let's go ahead and divide negative 4 to both sides. And since I can divide the whole row by negative 4, what's negative 4 divided by negative 4? That gives us our new value of 1. Let's go ahead and fill that out. It'll be 1, negative 2, 1, negative 4, 0, 1, 2, 6, and 0, 0, 1, 4. So we actually, the way we did this before, we would give it a variable like z, negative 4, z is equal to negative 8. We would divide both sides by negative 4. And z would equal to 2. Oops, sorry. This should be a 2 there. That should be a 2. Jump to it. 2. And you can see that gives us our 2. But instead of going backwards and substituting our z back into the next problem and back to the next problem, we're going to do this straight with matrices only, and it is going to be a little faster. So we're going to now use this row and work backwards to make this guy a 0. And then we're going to use these two to go work and make these guys zeros. So let's go and see how we're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to go backwards. How can I get rid of that 2? Well, if I change the 1 times a negative 2, that would work backwards. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Let me change my color for you guys. Negative 2. And 1 times, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And then we can combine these two together. So let's go ahead and look at my new matrix over here. We'll start filling up going backwards. We have 0, 0, 1, 2. We have 0, 1. Why? Because when I mix these together, 0 plus 1 doesn't change at all, so that stays alone. I see the 2 and the -2. What does it happens there? 2 -2 gives me a 0, and 6 and 4 combines to be 2. So you can see we have our zeros here. Sorry, we have ones, and we want ones all the way across with everything else being 0. That's our goal. All right. Well, let's use our last row here, and we're going to knock out this one here. We want to turn that into a 0. Well, to do that, let's go ahead and clear these values out of the way. So we're going to mix our 1s and 2s with this row here. And we want to cancel them out to become a 0. So I'm going to multiply our 1 in my third row by -1. So -1 times 1 is -1, and -1 times 2 is -2. And you can see here these are all zeros, so I could write zeros all the way across, so it doesn't matter. We can save some time there. So combining these over, we end up with 1 and -1 is 0. -4 and -2 is -6. And we still have 1 and -2 here. Now here's the kind of the cool thing now. We have a bunch of zeros, and we almost have all our values being zeros except our main primary row, our diagonal there. So I'm going to mix these two rows together. So I'm going to make this guy turn into a 0 also. Now what do you think I can multiply my second row by to cancel out with this -2 here? Well, hopefully you've said 2. So if I multiply this by 2 to get up here, we end up with the values of, let's go and change my pen real quick. 1 times -2 is 2, and 0 times 2 is 0, and 2 times 2 is 4. So we can combine them. Let's write our final matrix. It'll be 1, 2, -2 is 0, 0, 0 is 0, and -2, followed by next row, which is already done, 1, 0, 0, 2, and 0, 0, 1, 2. Okay. So this was our x, y, and z. So x is going to be -2, y is going to be 2, and z is going to be 2. Let's double check. We'll go ahead and plug that into my first problem up here. We'll say -2 minus 2 times 2 plus 2, is that going to be -4? And we have -2 minus 4 plus 2 is -6 plus 2 is -4. Good check. There you go. Okay, here's another example to show why row reduced echelon form is really quick for us. I'm going to change this into our matrix form, which is 1, 5, 5, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, and 6, 1, -3, and 7. Now, there are no zeros in this version. They're just a whole chaotic mess. So we're going to try to, we could rearrange this up to down or left to right. We can change the columns or the rows, but it looks like we can just work it for it as we want. We want our zeros to be nice and lined up. So that will take the first one being our ones nice and lined up. I'm sorry. So we'll take the first one being 1. So I'm going to combine 1 and 2. How do I do that? I need to multiply this by -5 to cancel out, right? -5. Change my pen color. I'm going to multiply this by -5, right? -5. 1 times -5 is -5. 5 times -5 is -25. And 5 times -5 is -25. And 4 times -5 is -20. Then we're going to multiply the first row by the third row. How can I get rid of the 1 and the 6? I want to multiply this by -6. So 1 times -6 is -6. 5 times -6 is -30. And 5 times -6 is -30. And 4 times -6 is -24. Let's come up with our new row, and our new row will be slightly cleaner than our last row. Okay, so when we combine, let me clean this up a little bit now. So when we combine our values like that, that'll give us our second row, and this will give us our third row. Okay, we changed our first row into our second and our third row, so it will be nicely canceled out. So let's start copying our first row, which we didn't change, 1, 5, 5, 4. Our next row is 5 and -5, gives us our 0, exactly what we wanted. Negative 25 and negative 1 is negative 26. Negative 25 and negative 2 is negative 27. And negative 20 and negative 3 is negative 23. Our next row here, negative 6 and 6 gives us 0. 30 and negative 30 and 1 is negative 29. Going negative 33. And negative 17. So it looks like it's getting messier. That's fine. We're going to deal with it and work our way backwards. All right, so now we have to somehow get rid of these rows here, because I really want a 0 in this position here. Now, unfortunately for us, that these are not, they don't have any common factors. We're just going to multiply them by each other. So we're going to multiply the top here by, I'll multiply this by 29. And I'll multiply the bottom by actually a negative 26. Okay, and when I multiply the positive negatives, they're going to nicely mix for us so that the positive negatives will cancel out. Okay, let's go ahead and change our color here. Hopefully you can see this. So we're going to multiply the top by the second row by 29 and the third row by negative 26. I have a calculator on my side. So I'm going to see 26 times 29 is going to be a huge number. It's 754 negative, and 27 times 29 is negative 783, and 23 times 29 is negative 667. That's fine. Those are big numbers. I'm using a calculator. Let's work on our third row now. Negative 29 times negative 26 gives us a positive 754. We should have known that already. I'm sorry. 33 times 26 is 858, and negative is a positive. And 17 times 26 is 442. 442 and negative is a positive. Great. Now we can combine these columns together, and we'll end up with our third column. Let's go ahead and rewrite that over here. So what hasn't changed for us is our 1, 5, 5, 4. Our second row, which we haven't dealt with, we just left it alone. And our third row is coming in at 0, 754 and 754. Positive, negative cancel out to become 0, which is what we wanted. We wanted that triangle of zeros. 783 minus 858 cancel out to become 75. There are more positives than negatives. And we have negative, what's I made a mistake here? What is 23 times 23? I messed up here. What is 23 times 29? What's 23 times 29? What was that? 667. Oh, I erased the 7. That's what happened. I erased the 7. I couldn't see it. That's a 7. So we have negative 667, and we're going to add 442 to it. And that gives us a negative 225. Is that right? 225. Yep, negative 225. Now, our goal is to get this whole row here, right? A bunch of 1s. So to do that, we're going to divide the whole row by 75. And that leads us to our next row. Would be 1, 5, 5, 4. That hasn't changed. 0, negative 26, negative 27, and negative 23. And 0, 0, 1, 225 divided by 7. Sorry, 225 divided by 75 is 3. So that's going to be negative 3 for us. And now we're going to work backwards to get rid of this third column here. Okay. Now that we have a 1, 1's really easy to manipulate to get rid of these other columns in column 3. So to get rid of this column here, I have to multiply by 27. And to get rid of my first row, third column, I would multiply this by negative 5. So let's go and write that. Negative 5 times 1, right? Negative 5 times 1 is -5. And -5 times -3 is a positive 15. On my second row, since I'm just going to do all the math right now, 27 times 1 is 27. And 27 times 3, using a calculator, is 81. -81. All right, so let's write a new matrix here. We're going to end up with the values of 0, 0, 1, -3, right? Because we are done with that row. Our next row is going to be 0, -26. We haven't changed the 26 yet. We had a 0 here, so nothing changed there when I combined it. But our 1 and 3 became 27, 27. They both cancel out to a 0. Excellent. And 81 and -81 and -83. And that gives us 104. And it's a -104. Let's go ahead and work on our first row. It's 1, 5. We haven't changed, or we didn't change anything here. Only the last two values. 5, 5 is 0. And 15 and 9 is 19. So hopefully you can see that we are having more zeros. Now how can I get this center value to become a 1? Let's divide the whole row by 26. So we end up with our new values, 1, 5, 0, 19. Our second row becomes 0, 26 divided by 26. Oh, and sorry, -26 is 1. And 104 divided by -26 is going to be positive 4. So 0, 0, 1, -3. All right, so as you can see, we have even more zeros now. Well, we have zeros and we have our row of 1s. Nice. We just have to have one more 0 and we're good to go. So that's combined row 2 with row 1. And you can see that's going to nicely cancel out for us. But what do I need to change it by? How can I cancel out 1 and 5? I'm going to multiply this by -5, right? 1 times -5 is going to cancel out for us. Let's write that. 1 times -5 is -5. 0 and 4 times -5 is -20. We can combine those pretty easily. We have our final matrix here. 1, -5 and 5. That's 0. 0. 19 and -20 is -1. 0, 1, 0, 4. And 0, 0, 1, -3. We have our values R, S, and T. That's what each of the columns stood for. R is equal to -1, S is equal to 4, and T is equal to -3. Let me show you that using a highlighter. R is -1, S is 4, and T is -3.